Hello, and thanks for watching the Recharge Your Life online video series. I'm your host, Phaedra Antioco, and we are talking about how to free yourself from those hidden traumas. And right now we have Ryan Sternagel, who dealt with the experience of his firstborn just before his first birthday, being diagnosed with cancer. So join me now with Ryan Sternagel as we talk about how childhood cancer changed our lives for the better. And let me share about Ryan with you. Ryan Sternagel is the founder, along with his wife, Teddy, of the Stern Method, a platform informing and inspiring families going through cancer to succeed on all fronts. In May of 2014, their son, Ryder, was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma just 11 days before his first birthday. And they consulted countless of doctors and health experts and disciplines, and now they are helping parents with their children navigating the healing journey with cancer. And we are just going to be talking about his journey right now and what he did to pull through. And I know cancer is just something that our world is becoming so much more toxic. And Ryan expresses that, and he and his wife, Teddy, changed their lives for the better because of this challenging diagnosis their son had. So stay tuned and just enjoy the journey of listening to this young couple's struggle to heal their son. Ryan, thank you so much for being here on the Recharge Your Life series. I know you've had some experiences in life in the past, 10 years at least, that have been challenging for you. Would you mind sharing about that?
Yeah, it's very good to be here with you, Phaedra. It's been well, every year is a challenge, right? But the most challenging years have been the last 5. My wife Teddy and our son Ryder was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma. It's a childhood cancer of the nervous system. 11 days before his first birthday, which was not the best thing that could ever happen to. He was our firstborn son and all that, and we thought we were living a much healthier than average lifestyle. We were getting rid of EMFs. We were eating mostly organic food, although you look back and, okay, well, somehow it's magical thinking and restaurants were somehow okay. But yeah, getting rid of EMFs, getting rid of household toxins, organic eating, kind of the whole 9 yards. And then about a month before his first birthday, Teddy was breastfeeding him, and she noticed a lump in his back. And it wasn't huge or anything, but if he was bent over in the right way, you could feel it. I could feel it. She could feel it. So we took him into his pediatrician, who was a naturopathic doctor at the time. And we kind of got brushed off, actually, just sent away. And it was during this time that we're also starting he pretty much stopped growing at about 6 months. He was born in the 90th in the 90s of the percentile of both height and weight, and he was in like the 20s at that time, and he was just, again, it was a month before his first birthday, and he wasn't crawling. He could barely even pull himself up, and a lot of kids were even kind of starting to even walk a little bit at that point. But we were all told that they all develop at their own pace, and it's nothing. But then with this lump in his back, we're like, red flags are starting to add up here. Something's going on. So that just, I don't know. We got a prescription for physical therapy to teach him how to walk, and occupational therapy to teach him how to eat, because that must be why he was falling off the growth chart. As he was 11 months old, didn't know how to eat, even though he was breastfeeding. He was a huge baby. He started out huge, but yeah. And so that, we just didn't accept that. We said, no, we got to get somebody else to talk to us and find out what's going on. And we got referred to a hospital at that point. It turned out to be a physician's assistant who took an x-ray and didn't see anything on the x-ray, and said, took some blood work looked okay, and said, nothing to see here. Come back in 6 weeks if the lump is still there. And it's still no explanation of what the lump was.
6 weeks though, it was a long time.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, he said come back in 6 weeks, and that was on a Friday. And I think by Monday we were back on the phone, like, no, we're not waiting 6 weeks. There's a lump in our kid's back. Something is going on. I actually did hear something about I don't know. I was on an interview recently saying this, and somebody mentioned that 6 weeks is kind of the interval time where they can rebill insurance for kind of the same issue. So I don't know if that's where the 6 weeks came. It wouldn't be surprising, but yeah, we got back in, got to it was like an orthopedic doctor. I think they were stuck on orthopedics. We kept on seeing orthopedic people, maybe because of the not crawling thing. But her nurse also worked in the oncology ward. They said, no, he looks fine. Because at that point, my wife had been doing the whole Dr. Google thing and had basically diagnosed our son with neuroblastoma. She said, I think this is neuroblastoma, even though that's the worst, not what we wanted it to be, but just being realistic about it. And both the doctors and the nurse said no, it couldn't be that for this and that reason. But we kept pressing. Finally got an ultrasound, and then the ultrasound showed that there was a mass there, and then we needed an MRI. And MRI was supposed to take 45 minutes, and almost 2 hours later, the doctor and the nurse came in, and they both had tears in their eyes, and they said the lump you felt in your son's back was just the tip of the iceberg, was how they put it. We'll never forget that. So yeah, it turned out to be stage 4. So he had a massive tumor inside of and growing out of his spine, his lower spine. And he had a couple secondary tumors. One of those had metastasized into his hip bones, and then the primary tumor itself was just kind of infused in the spinal cord.
Were you shocked? What happened? Like, tell me that moment. How did you guys handle the news?
Yeah, so at that point, we had kind of half come to the conclusion that it's probably what we were dealing with, because we had a few days in between to kind of prepare ourselves for the worst sort of thing. So it wasn't an absolute didn't see this coming at all sort of thing, but it did hit both of us like a ton of bricks, all the same, for sure. It's both of us kind of look back on it kind of like you'd remember a dream. Like, some things are super vivid and you can remember every other little detail, but then kind of the whole picture is just very vague and abstract and out of body experience type of thing, just the whole thing. So yeah, it wasn't. And again, this was 11 days before our firstborn son birthday. So.
And how long were you guys married?
We had been married at that point a little under 5 years.
Okay, so you had a strong relationship.
Yeah, it's funny because we actually just had our 10-year anniversary last week, and we were just kind of reminiscing about this, that every single really big, life-changing, lots of pressure both ways, this is a really important decision having to do with health stuff for our son. In the past, like, he wasn't vaccinated. That's a really big thing for a lot of parents. One parents on this side, one parents on that side. That was, we both looked into it and just decided that's the route we wanted to go, and it wasn't really a big thing. And then just going forward, we'll talk about this, but every step we took in this journey was definitely the path of most resistance. You know what I mean? It was knowing that this is the right thing to do. This is what we need to do, but it's also the hardest thing that we could choose to do at the moment in terms of like the resistance we're going to meet from it. And we've been on the same page for all of it, which is really special, because I work with a lot of parents of kids going through cancer now, and it's heartbreaking when one parent's on the let's do everything we can, holistic, alternative, integrative, whatever you want to call it, let's just figure out everything we can do. But then the other parent's on the no, let's not touch anything ourselves. Let's just sit back and let the doctor handle this. And
it's all about having to make those difficult decisions, for sure. And I love what we were talked about before is, because you were faced with such adversity, but making things happen no matter what. So you get the diagnosis, you sit on it, you process it. What are your next steps? How did you make it through? Where are you at today?
Yeah, so I mean, we were just going a mile a minute, calling around to everywhere we could. We were on the phone with I don't know, just different holistic cancer clinics. We were on like all over the world, and Mexico and Spain, and we were even considering a place in Hong Kong for a minute. We were working with different naturopathic oncologists, different integrative cancer coaches, just everyone we could talk to, just scouring the internet on PubMed, just trying to find out all the research we could on everything. And the thing with childhood cancer, unfortunately, all that being said, is you don't necessarily have as much of a choice in the matter in terms of the course of treatment to an extent. So like if you refuse conventional treatment, if you say, no, I'm not going to do chemotherapy or radiation or whatever it is that you're recommending, you'll get Child Protective Services, Department of Family Services, whatever your state calls it.
Wow.
You'll get that phone call real quick.
Did you get that phone call?
Yeah, well, we actually didn't refuse outright. We said that we were going, thank you for the diagnosis. We're going to go home now and get a second opinion. And that was, I mean, in addition to all of those kind of integrated places we were calling a bunch of just other mainstream hospitals, getting second opinions with his papers and his diagnosis and everything.
And you had insurance, right? You had insurance?
Yeah.
But you probably didn't have $1 million in your bank account, I'd imagine.
No, we were young couple just getting our start and all that stuff. Like kind of not entry level jobs. I mean, just the first job you get out of college kind of job. Yeah. So it was like we were still paying off college debt and just living paycheck to paycheck, more or less, like just that sort of thing. So
the amount of strength you must have had, because we're talking about the hidden traumas of the 5Ds, and one of those even is debt. So you've got college debt, you've got this new family, and you have, I'm sure, we're facing thousands of dollars in medical bills. Together.
Yeah. It was the hospital bills were stacking up. Our insurance did cover a lot of it, but I mean, when you're talking about he got over $1 million in like actual costs. Like,
wow.
Are they actual costs, or is it just inflated because insurance is covering a lot of it, blah, blah, blah. But all the same, our percentage of that $1 million, it wasn't free. That's for sure. So we had that. And then, so we said we were going to go home and get a second opinion. And then they actually did. We didn't even know if they were going to let us out of the hospital, because we had like a train of doctors and nurses and social workers all telling us not to do it, and so on and so forth. But we did leave, and we were making all those calls like I talked about. And then like a day later, it was like the next night, we woke up in the middle of the night, Teddy, my wife first, because he was sleeping with us, and he was just burning up, just radiating heat. And we didn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden he starts, puking all over the place, and just something was really wrong. In the spirit of wanting to do everything we could and making the most responsible decision and all that stuff, we had opted to get a port placed when we were in the hospitals, because if we did decide to do chemotherapy, then we wanted to be able to turn on a dime and do it. We were also, considering using that for intravenous vitamin C and some other integrative cancer treatments, that sort of thing. It turned out, as a result of getting that port placed, he got a bloodstream staph infection, which was
wow.
The cancer was, very immediately life-threatening, but this was even more immediately life-threatening. And so we were back in the hospital. At that point, we did, we were getting that
for you.
Yeah, we were getting that infection cleared. And at that point, we did consent to a round of chemotherapy, because we needed to do something to shrink the tumor. And then, after the fact, it had somehow gotten to our local Child Protective Services office that, we had initially questioned things. And so they were involved, and it was a big mess there for a few months.
You didn't have freedom in your choices.
Yeah. And it kept on, it was made clear to us that if we didn't continue to play ball, that things would get real ugly real fast. And then so it became, well, how much is enough? When are we going to stop? When is the stopping point? And that story kept changing. In the meantime, we were doing everything we could. Like I said, we were working with the naturopathic oncologist, using that port to get intravenous vitamin C infusions, other helpful nutrients. in there. We bought an infrared sauna, we bought a juicer, we bought a, energy medicine devices. We were, had a closet full of supplements that we demanded that he get a feeding tube in. You see a lot of the other kids, they get super emaciated and then they get a feeding tube so they can eat. And, so that was actually a fight in and of itself, was getting a feeding tube put in, because they're like,
Lots of
well,
fights.
he hasn't even had chemotherapy yet. Why do you want a feeding tube? And we're like, exactly. We want to keep him looking good. So yeah, we were using that feeding tube to just pump different juices and supplements into him. And our hospital room, like we were inpatient for long periods of time because that infection wouldn't go away.
And were you still trying to hold a job at this point so you could actually pay the bills and survive?
Yeah. They were great. I was an outside sales guy at the time, and that is your job, to go out and sell things as an outside sales guy. And there, I was doing what I could. I was, sneaking away in the conference rooms and hospital conference rooms, making calls and stuff like that. But it's not like I was performing it anywhere near 100%.
Yeah.
And
Did
they
you feel
were,
like you had superhuman strength to fight, or were you having any health challenges? Because I know it's all the stress and, probably not sleeping as much and all the worry.
yeah, if we could go back, I think we both had a superhuman mentality.
Yeah.
That's for sure. If we could, like, that first year, looking back, if we could go back and change anything, it would have been taking a portion of the juice and supplements that were going into our 1-year-old son and redirecting them towards us, so we could then be
Ah,
more vibrant and take, even better care of him, that sort of thing. Because while we were just grinding it out and always had the mentality that, feeling down about everything, that's not going to do anybody any good, least of all our son. And then just when you get into like the energetic side of things, and you want to be kind of radiating the best possible energy out towards them at all times as well. There just wasn't really any place for that. Of course, I'd like put him to bed, and then the first few nights, and then go break down and cry in the other room or something. But then, get right back and
there's just
get back
something
on it.
though about because I've worked with one of the top naturopathic oncologists, and I've worked with a lot of cancer, and seeing what people have to go through, and then the residual effects after the chemo and the lifelong gifts it brings. And there's just something about a child getting cancer that is the most heartbreaking. And they're these pure, innocent souls. They haven't had too much life experience. They're pure. They're not holding on to anger, resentment. And why? I'm sure you've had to ask that question at some point.
Yeah. And it was tough at first, because you have the hospital just telling you it's just luck, even though they ruled out like it being a purely genetic thing. But then we're like, okay, so what is it? Well, it's bad luck. Well, if it's bad luck, why 100 years ago kids just were not getting cancer at all?
There you
And
go. There you go. So what hypotheses did you put together about cancer?
yeah,
Because I know you have a great free gift for us, and you really clean your environment. Tell people how you're living, what you did, and what your hypotheses of why is all this cancer so prevalent now?
yeah. And it's childhood. It's really the same thing. You just kind of rattled off a few things there. I think it really is the same thing that is causing the rise in cancer in adults. It's, it is the non-organic food. It's the fact that the food is more nutrient depleted than it was 100 years ago. There's a fraction of the nutrients in it now, so you're not building yourself up as much with the food. There's, it's all processed these days, unless you're really, we don't eat processed food, but unless you're really paying attention, you're probably eating a lot of processed food. You're eating a lot of pesticides and GMOs, and just there's toxicants in the environment everywhere. One of the things that led us to build our own house out in the middle of the woods was like, just knowing that it was environmental, like, again, because if it wasn't 100 years ago, it wasn't around at all, and now it's everywhere. Like that is kind of the definition of the environment. Like, it's something you're exposed to, right? And so I don't know. There's all the stuff that people point out kind of on a regular basis, chemical cleaners, everything's wrapped in plastic. Don't store food in plastic these days. So never store food in plastic. But Yeah, so it's everything people are cleaning with, everything people are spraying into the air. And then you have, I don't know, even everything from like your dishes and silverware and stuff like that. It's like those can all have heavy metals or other things in them. So it's just kind of this whole toxic, not to mention electromagnetic fields is a big one. You know, a lot of people in the health world are slow to catch on to that one, I'm finding.
You literally moved out into the middle of nowhere in your own land and you don't have Wi-Fi, which I think that's commitment. And it really, you did your research on it and how bad it really is.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's what I was starting to get to there, is just the way that houses are built these days themselves. You know, everything from the pressed wood to the drywall, all that stuff is off-gassing formaldehyde, not to mention the furniture you put in it and all this stuff. And so it really was like just knowing that like that is something we had absolute control over, is something was causing this. We don't know exactly if it was more the electromagnetic fields or more the environmental toxicants, or maybe there was some sort of pathogenic thing going on, a bacteria or a virus or whatever. But you know, whatever it was, we were going to make darn sure that he wasn't exposed to any of that going forward, and that we were going to create the most optimal healing environment we could. And so that led us to getting a piece of land and then building a house on it made from non-toxic materials. And then, you know, but that didn't happen overnight. That we thought it was going to happen overnight. We got the land pretty soon after, not long after diagnosis. And I forgot to mention, we also moved states in there. We kept getting, like I started to say, we kept getting kind of wishy-washy answers, and no one would give us a straight answer, and no one felt accountable to anything they were telling us. And, CPS involvement, all that stuff. So we actually ended up moving states altogether, and that was a pretty quick decision as well. Teddy just looked at me in the car. Utah was one of the states that we had talked to for a second opinion. We really liked the just kind of feel of the hospital here. And on the way home from a particularly nasty appointment, Teddy looked at me and she said, you know, should we just move to Utah? And I said, yeah. And under 2 weeks later, we were packed up and gone. We've been here ever since. But yeah, then we got the land here, but then it wasn't, I don't know, the loan fell through one year, the construction loan fell through, and then contractor flaked out the next year, and then stupid regulations and permits and stuff like that got us the next year. And so, yeah, it was
challenges.
Yeah. But in the meantime, we were doing everything we could to live the most non-toxic lifestyle we could in the house that we have. And that's what we always preach, is like, do the best you can with what you have right now, and then work towards something better later. So that's been our MO ever since. Yeah.
So you opted for that first round of chemo for Ryder, and you then said, we're cleaning everything up. You're moving. What was the process like for you? You did nutritional IVs. How is he now? First of all, let's see, and what you did to get there, because
he's great. So the secondary tumors are gone. All the metastasis to bones and everything like that is gone. The primary tumor is, I keep on meaning to do the math to figure out like what percentage, a very, 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 very tiny percentage of what it was to start. And it's basically, his oncologists and everybody is pretty well comfortable with calling it just scar tissue at this point. I guess with the size of what it was to start, they'd be pretty surprised if there wasn't scar tissue. That's just, they monitor these kids, you know, survivors into their teens and adulthoods, and a lot of times they're just left with the scar tissue. So it's annoying. I wish that wasn't there either, but it kind of just is what it is. But yeah, so his when we got to Utah, we found out that the standard of care for his diagnosis was 8 rounds of chemotherapy.
Wow.
And that was kind of like, you know, and then we'll reassess and see if we need more and that sort of thing. And so we, at that point before moving, we were at 4, because again, it was like, do this or else sort of thing. And then they would never tell us when was going to be enough. And they were telling us 4 for a long time, that it was always going to be 4. And then we got to 4, and it was like, who told you, who said anything about 4? It's going to be 8, and then we're going to need to start talking about radiation and so on and so forth. And yeah, so that's when we moved.
And are you
Was
living
after
in
that
the
conversation.
hospital at this point? Are you kind of living there with him?
Towards the tail end, we weren't living there, and we weren't inpatient anymore because the infection did, ended up getting cleared and all that. And so we were just kind of coming back but we were in there like every few days just for, one appointment or another sort of thing. Yeah. So that's when we moved to Utah. And then when we got here, Ryder was so far along, much further than he should have been at that point. I mean, what I just described was not far. I mean, the secondary tumors were already gone. The metastasis was mostly gone. And then, they were okay with taking a wait and see approach, as they called it, even though they would have preferred us to do the 8 rounds because they're still very conventional doctors or whatever. But they were okay with treating Ryder like an individual, which seems to make a lot of sense.
Yep.
And I guess you could say we've been taking that wait and see approach every day since then. So
And I like how you didn't take that for an answer. You really did the investigation and the exploring. In my own case, I had a full body brace, and the standard, and I will show you, it was not pretty. Wow. And the standard is 12 weeks. You have to. No individuality. You have to wear this for 12 weeks. And I went to a doctor. He's like, no, you can sit up without it. It's safe. You can do that. And it opened up so much more freedom, because even to this day, 11 years later, I still feel that brace on me.
Wow.
And those are the hidden traumas that I'm talking about. It's like, Teddy, can you relax? Ryan, can you relax to feel safe? Or is there this kind of this noise, the station on the back of your head that's like, okay, waiting for the next shoe to drop? How do you feel?
Yeah, and so I think Teddy externalizes it better than I do, because I mean she's talking about that feeling of waiting for the next shoe to drop. I don't know. I think I'm better at least probably telling myself that that everything's fine.
You're working on it.
Yeah, I did. But then I don't know. I saw an acupuncturist for the first time about a year ago, and that was actually the only time I kept telling myself I needed to go back.
Time for Dad to get some help.
Yeah, but and that's kind of been the thought lately, is let's turn around and look at us. But she was like, whoa, you're, and I have a pretty, calm demeanor, I guess you could say. No one's really accused me of being too worked up or anything. But she's like, just taking whatever measurement she was taking at the time. She's like, whoa, you're really wound up. You need to, I think she called me like the vigilant guardian or whatever, because I'm always like waking up, if I hear something in the middle of the night, if the kid starts crying or whatever, I'm like,
have back pain or neck pain or anything like that? Ever like weird little tightness, muscle tension things come up?
Yeah, little like twitch type stuff here and there. You're right.
That's why we're talking about this. Is like there's so much going on. I mean, you present yourself like, I've got this, it's good, and you've used it to really, now you're educating parents and people about cancer. You've done wonderful summits on it. But it gets trapped up. But I like how you're taking what happened to you and you're creating something good out of it.
Yeah, because I mean, and that is really big. And we were kind of, I don't know. So everything we do today was built on that initial, let's put everything we were doing out there, because I know we started to talk about the money thing, but a lot of people, because now we're on Facebook and social media and all this stuff, and we're always posting this, this new energy medicine device we got, or this saunas and all these different supplements Ryder's on, like 50 different supplements at any one time, and not that much these days, but close.
Yeah. This is a big problem, and how do I afford it? How can I?
Yeah, and so people always, we'd get those comments all the time that you must have had a good job, a really cushy job, or maybe you came from a lot of money or whatever. But like we started to talk about, neither of those things were true. We were just kind of entry-level job out of college,
How'd you do it?
young adults. But yeah, so it was putting ourselves out there, and the purpose was twofold. It was, one, we realized we needed a whole lot of money that we didn't have, and we needed it fast. And the only way to, at least initially, get that was fundraising. And so, we set up an online fundraiser like a lot of people do, the GoFundMes and whatnot. But it wasn't just post the thing and hope people share it and then that's it. It was literally, we created a special page for Ryder, and then we were posting updates, just putting everything we were doing, and then reminding people of the fundraiser just throughout. And we got, I don't know, like multiple thousands, like several $1,000 donations from people that we'd never met before, just because they liked that we were putting everything we were doing out there, and that it was something they could resonate with, and that sort of thing. And then we also just, we recognized that we were doing a whole lot of research and finding out about things that maybe not necessarily every parent of a child going through cancer or every person going through cancer, was finding out about for whatever reason. We wanted to help spread that. And because Ryder was always the best looking kid in the hospital, and we wanted, other kids to look as good as Ryder did. And
so you're helping families through this.
Yeah. And so that kind of grew into, it grew into a following on Facebook. And then at some point it made sense to start a website and a YouTube channel and podcast and summits and so on and so forth. So, yeah, but it's been really nice. One, just from the, I don't know, the reward of it, of getting to see, people benefiting and getting messages and that sort of thing. But it also, I've found, just, and it's not like everyone needs to go out and start their own podcast and YouTube channel and blah, 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 and run a big summit like Phaedra's doing here, because it's, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But just putting everything like, whatever it is you're getting over or healing from, like, it's much better to put it out there to the universe that this is your intention and here's everything you're doing to do it. I feel
the intention piece. Can you share, like I always say, it's a focus, it's a direction of energy, it's this inner determination that I'm just going to make it happen. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to give up. How would you describe intention?
Well, yeah, I think, I was starting to say something like this before we started recording here, but it's like, just ask yourself what you care about, and and it's like the answer should probably be obvious, especially if we're talking about getting over some sort of, debilitating condition or life event or whatever. But it's, are your actions really reflecting what's going on in your head, your thoughts and your emotions and all that stuff? Is, is every action you take, is that actually getting you towards the goal that you tell yourself you want, or is it not? Are you eating the pizza, or, whatever the case may be? But it's like, and when you're doing it, but it's just a matter of, like, actually really reflecting upon that and saying, no, this is an action that will not lead towards the outcome I want. I want to take the action that will lead towards the outcome I want, and just continually monitoring and checking yourself. And I'm certainly not saying I'm 100% when it comes to all this, but I do think Teddy and I have done an above average job of, if, like, you're ordering something in a restaurant, you're going to tell the server what it is you want, and then you expect that to come. It's just, you have to order it, I guess is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? If you don't order it, and then, like, I guess the restaurant example isn't the best.
No, I like that. That's a good example.
Yeah, I guess you have to pay them the money, because that would be the action you take. You can't just,
yeah.
But what I'm saying, like, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's just, gosh, your actions just have to be in alignment with what it is that you say that you want. And that's the one thing we find over and over again, is people say they want one thing or another. And, in the case of healing, it's healing. But just, and maybe their actions reflect that, and part of the day when they take the supplement they're supposed to take or whatever. But it's
You
just, are
educated
you?
yourself. That's the thing. And there's so much hidden stuff we don't know. And with a capitalistic society and everyone trying to sell things, and it's maybe not in our best interest. There's a lot of crap out there that's killing us.
Yeah,
I don't think people are aware that when I go and get a takeout pizza, just because everybody Americans doing that, what's in it? What's it causing it harm, and how is it harming our body? And so you guys did the research and you're
yeah.
providing that to the world.
And
And
cancer is kind of the ultimate, autoimmune, and like I hear this with all sorts of different conditions, is I needed to take a step back and really reevaluate my life and everything. But something about cancer really makes you take a really big step back, and just really, you have to realize just pretty much everything, whatever, like I talked about the path of most resistance earlier, but whatever the path of least resistance is, just whatever facet of your life, whether it's what's available to you to clean your house, or what's available to you to eat in a hurry, or how like the best way to get onto the internet or the easiest way to get on the internet, like all of those paths of least resistance all have some like toxicity towards them. To them. And so it's really just evaluating each and individual, and what, you mentioned capitalism, but what you buy is a good place to, really good place to start. Like with everything you buy going forward, just question it. Like, could this be toxic or not? Like, could this like harm me in some way? And then, and then it's easy. It's, well, maybe I don't know the answer to that, but
we're seeing more, though. Don't you agree? We're seeing more organic this and that, even in these.
Oh, it's coming around. Yeah, for sure. But then there's also this whole market of like, you go to Whole Foods and like they have like kind of a healthy package, like slogans on their package or whatever. But then you look in the ingredients, like this isn't even organic. But so yeah, you do still really need to be mindful of everything. But
well, let me ask you, when you're reading a label like that, for example, what are some absolute no's?
I mean, everything has to be organic first and foremost. Just, a lot of people make exceptions here, make exceptions there. If they want a recipe, they're making a recipe, and like, 4 things they find at the store are organic, but 2 things aren't. They still proceed with that recipe, and that's just, I'm never going to knowingly feed my kids pesticides, that's poison. It is. So that's kind of first and foremost. And then we don't really accept any preservatives or just anything that isn't like a food. Just we don't really have it. And then and then that goes to the point, like, we're not reading a whole ton of labels
because you're eating whole foods.
Yeah, because most of the stuff we're eating is just fruits and vegetables and nuts, seeds, grains, all that good stuff.
And it's a matter of life and death for you and your family. You've been there.
Yeah. And just knowing that this is, it's not just one thing, it's everything that caused it. It goes for stress as well, like you were talking about. That's one thing that Teddy and I, we do come back to, is she was under an extreme amount of stress while she was pregnant with Ryder. She had a really bad day job situation, nightmare boss, that, just kind of cliche thing. And, I still feel bad that we pulled her out early, but it should have been like the day that was happening that she was gone.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like all of this, it just, stress, hormones, cortisol, it does add up in the body. And we do the best we can. I think you had community, right? You had people fundraise for you. You didn't isolate yourself. So you just built. I mean, so many amazing experts now because of this story.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, in the one sense, we moved away from our community. We moved away from our friends and family. We both grew up in Washington State. And so we left our entire like physical support network just kind of on a dime as far as in-person stuff. And then of course our parents came and visited and helped out. And Teddy's mom eventually moved here down the road and all that
great.
stuff. But we compensated with what we were doing online, and and yeah, we just kind of built a new community of like-minded people, that were scattered across the country. And then, of course it was kind of a chance to reevaluate the kind of people we wanted to surround ourselves with in person. So now, the friends we have here are much more in alignment with our lifestyle and that sort of thing. So yeah, if you think you can't just start a new life, I mean, it helps to move, but you certainly can just like choose to hang out with new people. And
Yeah.
it's not as bad as you think.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, that's true. And it's your free gift, which I like. It's the Cancer Proof Home Checklist. Can you tell us about that?
yeah, that's everything. So again, not short of going out and building your own house out in the middle of the woods.
Right.
It's everything that we had found that we could do in the house that we were living in before to live the most anti-cancer life possible.
Mhm.
Um, well, anti-cancer, toxic free, whatever you want to call it, just avoiding everything that can do you harm in the place that you live. Because, I don't know, but you hear about all this stuff and it gets overwhelming. We just rattled off all this different stuff that can cause disease and all this sort of thing. But then when you think about it, yes, there is a lot of that stuff floating around in the world, but I mean, you spend the vast majority of your time in your house. And then that's something we should all work on as well, is like get out in the woods more and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's a great start. Yeah.
Please do that. But, at bare minimum, we're sleeping there 8 hours a day. And I'm sure that's not the only time you're spending there. So it is, yeah, it's the majority of your time you're spending in your house. So that is the one place that you have pretty much absolute control, not 100%,
Mhm.
but pretty close. And so that's literally, it's what it's called, the Cancer Proof Home Checklist. And it's literally every single thing you could possibly do to remove anything that would hurt you from your home. That's what we did.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And another thing that's on the rise, I lost my dog to cancer. It was actually brain cancer. It was a tumor in the nose that went up to the brain, and it was awful. And I did some research, because that's the first place to start, is just to do research. Start with your home checklist. I didn't realize I bought in a neighborhood. I'm in the desert. It's mostly dirt and dry, but we have grass. Fake grass, like sprayed the grass. Let's put all this junk over it. And I didn't realize my dog, I was walking multiple times a day, and she'd walk in this grass and she'd lick her paws and bring it into my house. And so it really taught me to be mindful. And it's devastating. I don't even see as many. I talked to my friend in Europe. I said, do you guys have a lot of dogs dying of cancer? Because it's so prevalent here. With everybody I know, it seems who's had a dog has lost one. But I don't know if you've looked at cancer rates in Europe versus in the US, or is there a difference?
Yeah, I mean, they're going up everywhere. U.S. is one of the worst industrialized. I mean, pretty
Yeah.
much any industrialized country, it's worse than than the non-industrialized countries. But Europe, it depends on. I mean, there is the EU, but then different countries have stricter bans on different things, and so it varies, country to country, even region to region, I guess you could say. But yeah, in general, like there is a lot less toxicity in certain places in Europe for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can vote, use our vote to help us get things changed here. I know you're pushing for it, you're
Yeah.
educating people on it.
Oh, your vote's your dollar, and and just the choices you make, really. I mean, you don't have to participate in whatever it is that you feel is a bad thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So now you've got the program too, and I know you have a product for sale, which I think is amazing. A cancer patient's roadmap. Tell me
Yeah,
how
it's called,
you created.
yeah, it's the going integrative cancer patients roadmap. And it's really, just kind of on the spirit of everything we did, or everything that we've learned along our journey. Um, it just feels like so many people are stuck in the middle. There's kind of this polarizing, when you start looking into the health world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chemo, radiation, or IVs. What do I do? What do I do?
yeah. And, I we're certainly, I'm not like saying I'm a cheerleader of just going all conventional and sprinkling some alternative stuff on the side. That's not what I'm talking about here, but it is a true evaluation of all your options and what makes sense. And no matter what you choose, are you doing everything you can in the meantime? Because I see so many people going through conventional treatment that either they're just not doing anything to make themselves better, one, bettering their chances at living, and then two, just you don't have to feel like such crap going through conventional treatment. And so they're either just not doing anything, or they're doing a bit, but they're not going nearly far enough, in my opinion, to really give themselves the best chances to both feel good and live a long, healthy, happy life. So it's really, it's everything, that we've learned in terms of nutrition and supplementation, and finding like a team of experts, and how you do find the right doctor for that situation. And is that right doctor maybe that doctor's right for you today, but maybe you need a different doctor at this phase of your life, and really just constantly evaluating all that stuff, cleaning up your environment, all that stuff. And then just, we spend a lot of time talking about fundraising and how you are going to make all this stuff happen for you, because no one's coming to save you, I guess, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? And so that's a big piece of it too, is just walking people through everything we did, not just raising money, but also getting creative. We asked for discounts everywhere we went. We worked out something with like with the local, like not like a big Whole Foods, although you might be able to work out some with them too. But there's a couple like smaller organic grocery stores in town that we told what was going on. So we were getting produce at basically their wholesale cost to make our juices and stuff, and just
you were determined, doing whatever it takes. I did that too. I got free meals delivered. I got electricity bills decreased because of it. Free transportation. It was amazing.
Yeah, and so it's kind of taking all this stuff and methodizing it a little bit, and putting it into more of a structure than us just kind of firing in all directions when we were doing it. But kind of walking people step by step, a little more gently, and a little more a sane manner. So
And so you've created the Stern method, so it's kind of your thing.
Our website, brand, whatever you want to call it, so like Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, our website is thesternmethod.com. We're just the Stern Method on social media, that sort of thing. And then our course is the Going Integrative Cancer Patients Roadmap.
All right, Ryan Sternagel, do you have any final words for us today?
Keep going. Keep going. That's what I say. That's what I say at the end of every podcast episode I do. But it's just, I think I just kind of came to this realization on another interview recently, but it was like, I just realized that my attitude towards everything was, it's like hard to verbalize, but Ryder did not die 5 minutes ago. He's probably not going to die in the next 5 minutes. And so what am I doing with this time right now? And I'm just going to choose to keep going. So that's what we did. That's what I encourage everyone out there to do as well.
Beautiful. Well, I'm so excited for you and what you have to offer the world. And I'm so glad Ryder's doing well, and you and Teddy are together, and you guys have bonded, and you're making a difference in the world. So thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Yeah, thank you for what you're doing here, Phaedra. This is really neat.
Thank you, Ryan, for sharing your heartwarming story with us today. And I love how you took those lemons and you made lemonade, and you really changed your life and are helping others, because we all have so much experience in this. It can be so challenging. What doctor do I pick? Do I not do the traditional, or do I do alternative? How do I get the money? And there's always a way. There's always a way. I know I experienced it from my trauma and my accident. Ryan and Teddy experienced that here. So keep on going, everyone. There is hope and there are answers. Just don't give up. Do whatever it takes. And again, this interview series, everyone's being so open and vulnerable and sharing. We're all humans living this school of life and taking these lessons with us. So if you've enjoyed this series, and I really hope you did, I hope you're feeling inspired, consider purchasing this series. And with that, you get some great bonuses, which also include a one-on-one session with me where we can look at those hidden traumas or those stuck places, or maybe there's these trapped emotions still there in your body. And I want nothing more for you to heal and feel better. And if you have any questions and you want to reach out, just reply to any of my emails and I will do my best to respond. I care, and I'm doing this from the bottom of my heart. I have been there in those challenges, and I usually pull through. And if not, I ask for help and I find a way, and I wish that for you. All right, have a beautiful rest of your day.